Alright, hi everybody, welcome back, and let's finish up the imports, and I think I'm going to do the deletes, cleaning up my imports, so we should be able to do everything at one time. So starting with the imports, I have an IPC address range import that effectively allows you to specify a type, whether reserved or static, device type, so you can do servers, printers, PCs, and so forth, and then you can specify a quantity and a start IP, and what we expect to get out of that then is the IP address of the range, the starting range back to us. And if we go look at that subnet and refresh it, we're going to see all of the IP addresses that were requested, and there's 10 of those that are reserved in the list. So very easy way to set up the ranges, and especially if you're using any of the use next reserved APIs where you have to reserve a range first, this helps you in that process. The second one is importing IPControl administrators. We have a process to import the admins as well as the import roles, so importing groups, and you can also have the authentication mechanism automatically build these imports. Now I'm going to go ahead and assume this, and by leaving the role off, I'll have a default role, but this will create a normal user that I'm going to specify for test admin, and if I go look at that user now within IPControl, I'll see its role, its settings, and basically all of its parameters around this. So the default role is an ability to set up what the default should be if there's not a predetermined role or access permissions. You can have them default to this and then later come in and modify them and move them around. Now the import IP device is effectively just that. It imports an IP address specifying its address type of any of the valid types, device type, down into the subnet. We then look at things like the direction. When I do the next available IP address, we can specify from the start or the end of the subnet. So I can tell it to allocate the next available from the beginning or from the end, specifying the domain type, and also telling it that I want to use this for DNS and to get the result back so that I can see that information and then process it further through the workflows or through your APIs. And then this IP address is 8.1. And if we go take a look at that, quick search to it, should bring us right to the IP, and we should be able to see that add that was just assigned. Now importing the IPC device DNS record, I'm going to use the same IP device, 8.1, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it this is my data, and I'm going to make this a CNAME record. So it'll be www pointing back to the test my IP add at my domain, and that's going to create an alias record for us then, that if I go and take a look at those aliases, I'll see, well actually that device, I'll see the alias record. Go back to that. And I'm either looking in the Resource Records tab, where you'll see it here, or in the Alias tab, you'll see this assigned as well. All right, so real quick there, and you can do other things like A records, anything that your administrator is capable of, you can import to the device. Now the import address pool is effectively creating a contiguous range of addresses that will be used for DHCP, and in this particular case I'm going to start at 8.25 and go to 8.50, and what I expect to see in the subnet then is a DHCP pool. This does return null, by the way, so you might want to set something up in your script to let you know. And then when I look at the import then, I'll see the DHCP pool that we've just assigned here. So real quick way to populate that. We can also do the same thing with a DHCP server. Now I think I still have this server, so let me go make sure and delete if I do. And I do, so let's delete this one out of here. Okay, and let's go ahead and run that again. And so here we're just looking for the IP address, the agent name, which tells it what agents. You may have to import the agent first or create one. And then all I'm doing here is just basically responding back as true, and then some debug information with the JSON. But looking at the server, we'll be able to go and take a look at the server's configuration, and it defaults to the INS Sapphire. So if you're looking for types of servers, you can specify those as well. The DNS Resource Record, so this would be the import domain resource record, not like the device. And what I want to see here is I'm going to create an A record for this host name of my test, and this will be the data, which will be the IP address for the host. And that returns back the resource record that was assigned. And if we go take a look at the zone, we'll see then the record that we've created. All right, so there's your my test record at the top of there. Now with the DNS servers, we can do the same, and I think I have a server here as well. Let me make sure I do. Let's get rid of this one. Okay. And the same with this. When we're creating a DNS server, the only difference with this is that there are available DNS Server Templates, which you can select from the DNS server so that you can determine what server, what default parameters, what configurations, and so forth should this server inherit when it's going to be defined and imported into the tool. So by doing that and creating the server, we would then see that in its list, and it should inherit that template, which now we can go in and manage that server. Okay. And that was my test, my DNS. And then importing a domain. So I'm going to create a new one called newdomain.priv or priv. And I'm going to set a couple of the values here, like the default TTL. Actually, we might make this 3600, expire 86400. We'll set the reverse to 1. And then we can always JSON out that if we want, or specify whether it's a reverse zone if we're importing the NAT or ARPA. So I'm going to go ahead and create this, again, my debug and the information. And in that domain now, I'm going to have, if I do a search for priv, I'll see my new domain.priv. But what also happened is because I had not had a private extension or the domain extension, it actually creates this tree for us. So it creates the .priv and then it creates the domain that we're going to manage at this parent level. Now, importing Galaxy domains is a way to import a domain into a Galaxy, which is a grouping of DNS domains that can then be easily deployed out to different servers based on their profiles, whether they're master servers, slaves, and doing secondary transfers, and so on. So this allows us now to take that domain that we just created and to import it into this Galaxy so that any servers who are currently part of that profile will inherit that new domain and can then be deployed in the configuration to their servers. So if I go now look into my domains, I'll see here the one we just created to the default. So we can do this in bulk too, so if you just want to load everything. For those administrators and engineers who are looking for the next available subnet, we can assign the next available block or subnet basically by specifying the container that you're going to allocate the block to, a type and a size, and then we'll go look for the next available size and give you the next available subnet. So I'm going to do that here, and I don't know which one that'll give me. That'll give me 3.0. And if I go look in my containers for 3.0, I can see the subnet is now created in that container. So now the next reserved IP address, I mentioned having that pool of ranges of addresses that if we were to assign a range using next available IP, we would be able to get the next reserved, mark it as a static, change the host name and other parameters, and finish up the transaction. So what I expect to see here is, because I have a reserved range of IPs, I should get 8.5 as the next available. And if I run this, I should get 8.5. And then if I refresh this list, I'm going to see here now that 8.5 is now converted to a static address. So that lets us know that this IP now is in use and we can use it as a static assignment. Now the reserved DHCP is kind of the flip side of this. It allows you to take a MAC address and associate it to a DHCP address for a reservation. Now this also works if you're doing this with existing DHCP pools and you want to carve out an existing IP from the pool. This should do the same and split the pool and resize it. And what I expect to do from this is that this is working from the end. I'm going to see an IP address of 192.168.11.254. Okay. And then if I go take a look in that subnet, which we were just in, actually we should do it right here. I'll show used IPs only, and that'll filter out and show us the last IP. And you'll see here the MAC, its manual DHCP, and its host name stored. Now root blocks are the same. We can go in and define at the highest level the network that we're going to be managing and assigning and working with later in the tool. So I already had this 13. I'm going to go ahead and delete this, carve it out. And so what we'll see here is we'll go ahead and create that same 13 network and refresh that. Real quick way to add the root block and then set up any of the user-defined fields and others for it. Now the import zone then allows us to take a domain, like we created a domain, and it has its resource records, And then we can then delegate this domain as a type to a specific server. So I have an existing DNS. I'm going to go ahead and create this as a master zone. It's not a dynamic zone. And import that into the server. And now if I go look at the zone delegations, I'll see that zone under that server's delegation list. And that'll be here. Now I'm not going to go through the invokes. Let me go down through the removes here. So kind of working in reverse order. We had our test admin. We can then delete that admin. Simply remove it here. I don't know if I need to go and show everybody when we're doing this, but I can. So in the definitions now, we'll see that the test admin we created is gone. Test API admin. Now from the device, if I had that, let's see if I stored that up there. I think it was 8.1 that we had created the alias for. Alright, and this one I had www. So let's remove www from that and make sure we've got the address set to 1, and we'll go ahead and give that a run. Alright, now that should have deleted this alias from this record. And if I go click back through that again, Alright, and so our www is gone, and the alias tab is gone as well. Same thing with the child block, with subnets or aggregate blocks. A couple notes about this: if the subnet's in use, you can deploy it or remove it, just running the delete child block, and that will effectively delete the subnet from the container. One note about aggregation blocks, though: if you try to delete an aggregate block and it has existing children or subnets or other aggregates, you'll have to delete those first before you can delete the parent block. So if there's any children of the parent, you'll have to remove it first. Now we've been working with this 8.1, so I'll go ahead and again just remove this. Real simple, takes an IP address, username, password, authenticate, and move on. And now we'll see that 8.1 and the subnet is deleted. A couple key notes about all of this too is that we create audit records for everything as well. So anytime we're removing and adding these records, we'll see them deleted. You'll also have the ability to remove any existing DHCP pools, and the key to this is you must know the name and the start address, or at least the start address. So I think I'll modify this and make it a non-required, but you can do this in either way. And if we look again at the pools, we'll see that the pools are gone. And there is an option that when you delete the pool that you can keep the existing leases or IPs, so we can keep those in the tool if we want. And same thing with the DNS Resource Records. I can delete those from a domain, and we'll delete the one that we added, the myTest. And this again, if we go look at our myTest or automate my IP domain. And that should be on the top. It's not, and we can do a search there, and that's deleted as well. The DNS server we created, we can also delete those. So if we're adding, deleting, we can simply add and remove them. And that server should be gone from the list now. And same thing with the domain. Now, the one thing about the domain is if I have delegated this to a server and it's set up as a zone, I cannot delete this right away. And what you'll see here is cannot delete because it's already attached as a zone. So what I would need to do in order to clean that is go to remove the zone first, which if I do that, that'll delete it from the server. Oh, actually, I don't think I created that zone. So let's import that zone. Okay, since that's a Galaxy domain, I won't be able to delete from there. So let's try another server, and I'll remove one of the domains off of it. And let's see if we can do one up here. Don't have too many zones around. How about this one? Yes, we can do this one. Okay, so I'm going to change this pi home local, and I'm going to take this. Actually, I can't do that either. So what I'm looking at here, these are Galaxy zones. So the Galaxy needs to be managed at the other level. I'm going to go ahead and just make one up here so that we can quickly do this and assign it. So at the server level, you can assign zones like we did with the import. And let's just look up one. Let's just do something a little bit easier here. Okay, let's try automate. Let's just attach that real quick. Okay, and then over here, we'll just take that out. AutomateMyIP.com, and that's on VM and S1. Okay, and if we run that again, which we just added, we'll see now that that's been deleted. All right. So sorry I had to go through all that, but there are some requirements that you need to adhere to that, make sure that those are done properly. All right, so those are effectively the different removes and the deletes that I have currently, and I'll have a few more, I think, when I release this in the next week or two, and then also with the imports, I think I'll have another one or two as well. So sorry, this ran a little bit longer than I expected, but I want to get rid of this and finish this up and start going through maybe some scenarios and showing some real-world examples of how you might want to use this and pipelining or doing things in bulk. So thanks for bearing with me again, and hope this helped out, and look forward to seeing you again. Take care.